mynews.studio.
Back in January, Portugal's turbines were spinning and rivers were flowing hard. More than 80% of the country's electricity came from renewables. That's just 9 months after a huge blackout left 60 million people without power. How exactly did Portugal turn a crisis into such a strong comeback?
For context, today is February 13, 2026. That turnaround in less than a year is striking. Last April's blackout in Portugal was huge. It ended up affecting the entire Iberian Peninsula.
The blackout was actually set off by a chain reaction of overvoltage failures at conventional power plants, not renewables. Poor grid planning made things worse. It really exposed how fragile traditional power infrastructure can be when it's under stress.
So it wasn't wind or solar that failed. The old system just couldn't handle the pressure. After that, what steps did Portugal take?
They reinforced their commitment to renewables. In January 2026, hydropower provided 36.8% of the electricity, and wind contributed 35.2%. For a total of 210 hours, though not all in a row, those two sources alone covered all the country's demand. That's a real test under pressure.
That's a big statement for renewables. It also shows they're stabilizing the grid, not just adding to it. But how did they handle the times when wind or solar production dips, like in the evenings?
Flexibility is the answer. Across the EU, batteries have started replacing gas during peak hours. They store the surplus wind and solar, then release it to balance the grid. Portugal and other countries also put money into modernizing their grids, making it easier for renewables to connect.
Zooming out to Europe, last year was the first time wind and solar together generated more electricity than fossil fuels across the EU. What drove such a big shift at the European level?
It comes down to 3 things: major investments in renewables, coordinated policies, and upgrading the grid to handle more distributed sources. There's still a bottleneck, though. The EU estimates it needs €584 billion for grid improvements by 2030. But the benefits are already showing.
Electricity prices in Portugal dropped by more than 26% in the past year. That's a substantial change. Are there other economic effects from this shift?
Definitely. Portugal alone saved about €703 million by using less natural gas. The renewable sector is also adding new jobs. Plus, Europe's reliance on imported fossil fuels is going down, which helps with energy security.
So, the argument for renewables is getting stronger. But can other countries really follow Portugal's example? What's in the way?
The biggest challenges are investing in infrastructure and having the political will to act. Grid modernization is crucial, and not every country has Portugal's natural resources. Still, the approach is clear: build flexible, resilient systems and use what you have locally.
The Hamburg Declaration is a case in point. 10 countries agreed to develop 100 gigawatts of offshore wind in the North Sea by 2050. That's enough to power around 143 million homes. Does this kind of cooperation set a wider precedent?
Yes, it does. Europe's recent progress shows that ambitious climate targets can be met when policy, investment, and technology come together. This isn't just theoretical anymore. It's happening in practice.
For places recovering from crises or unsure about renewables, Portugal's experience is a real-world example. Are we seeing the beginning of a global shift?
The numbers point that way. Renewables are now central, no longer just an add-on, in the energy mix of major economies. The world is watching to see how quickly others move.
Portugal's recovery, Europe's grid upgrades, the North Sea wind plans, they all show the same thing. Change isn't just possible, it's already happening.
If Portugal can recover from a blackout and set new records, it raises the question: what's holding others back from making similar progress?
Thanks for joining us as we unpacked Europe's renewable shift, Portugal's story, and what it all means for the future of energy.
Electricity, resilience, climate action. This isn't just Europe's journey, it's a global one. Thanks for listening. This episode was brought to you by mynews.studio. Try it for free.